Hey, this is Alex at U Rock Music Center coming at you again. We're going to be doing a little online guitar lesson today about alternating fingerstyle guitar, otherwise known as Travis picking. It was invented by Merle Travis, though I'm not sure that's exactly true, but it got named after him. Um, at its core, it's actually a fairly simple concept. It's not easy to do, but it is a simple concept, I think. The whole thing is you are going to take one finger, that's your thumb. Your thumb plays bass. Sometimes it's root fifth, sometimes it's root third, sometimes if you're doing it on, you can actually do third root. But point is, you're always playing bass with your thumb, and then your two fingers here, sometimes three, I like to use three, not everyone uses three, but I do, are going to carry a melody. Or sometimes they're just basically playing other chord tones to fill out the sound. So it's a really great style to learn. It's great for any aspiring acoustic musician, especially for singers, because it really gives you a good accompaniment pattern for certain stuff. It won't replace a strummed guitar, but it will give you something a little bit more interesting if that's what it calls for it. So I'm going to lead you through some exercises to work on it. I'm going to show you some patterns to start using almost immediately, and hopefully you'll get up to playing it with a little bit of practice. All right, so the first thing we're going to talk about is the bass. So the bass is always played by your thumb, and your thumb needs to be on a flat plane here like this. You don't want this. It's too hard to control, and it doesn't leave your fingers in very good position because then they're plucking up like this. Okay, you don't want that. You want your hand like this, so then your fingers are basically, it's like pulling a trigger. That's it. So if you're playing like this is more flamenco style, and actually they tend to play more with their nails than with the pad of their fingers. So that this isn't wrong, it's just not good for this style. So if you find yourself wanting to kind of sit like this with it, this is all you have to do. Okay, you're going to just pull your hand back, and now I see this straight line basically from here to here. So when I'm up like this, you have that hard bend, and there again, at least for this style of music, it makes it harder, and at least for me personally, it's a lot more tension in my wrist. So this way is very relaxed for me. Okay, straight line, and then basically my thumb continues that straight line, boom, right onto the strings, and then my other fingers are under it. Now, what strings those fingers are on, depending obviously on what chord you're playing. And then even your thumb, that depends on what chord you're playing. Usually you're going to want to try to keep the root of the chord in the bass. So on a G chord, it would be on a G. And then the other note that it's going to play is going to be another member of the chord. If you're holding down the chord, it's not an issue. You shouldn't have to think too much about it. Generally on a G chord, I'll G to D, so that's going root fifth. Root fifth is definitely the most stable sounding, but root third's not bad, and you do that in like a C chord, because you're going C here to an E here. On a D chord, you're really compressed up here on these four strings. If you want, you can go fifth root. It's not as stable sounding, as you can tell. So you do generally want to try to keep roots as the bass in your chords, but that depends. And we'll talk about some other situations where you will play things that are other than the roots in the bass. But that's a good rule to generally start out with. Okay, so now that we've talked about our thumb, let's talk about what our other fingers do. So generally with this style, your second finger here is going to be carrying the melody. And your first finger is basically going to be playing harmonies in the middle of that, just kind of to fill it out. But there's a song called Freight Train by Elizabeth Cotten that kind of doesn't really do any of that. It's just kind of this bass, and it's got this melody that moves across it. And it's honestly, it's one of my favorite songs. It's one of those songs that really shows you, kind of beauty and simplicity. And so what's going to happen is through the majority of the song, you're just playing your bass as quarter notes. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you're going to have your second finger And you do want to use your second finger, and we'll talk about why at some point. But you want to use your second finger, and that's playing a half note melody. So for every 2 bass notes, you have 1 melody note. It starts out like this. It's pretty simple sounding, right? But I give that song to a lot of my beginner students, and even some intermediate students who have some finger picking experience, and they really have a hard time with it because it's not easy. It's really not easy, but it's very doable. You just have to kind of think critically about it. Think about, okay, so all that's ever going to happen, at least in that section of the song, is that my thumb and my second finger are going to hit together on every 2 beats. So together, then off, together, then off, together, then off, together, then off. So I'm just thinking together, then off, together, right? That's it. I know it seems like I'm boiling that down, to something maybe to less than it is, but I'm really not. It's a very simple concept. Okay, so now I'm actually going to talk about something that's a little easier to do, but sounds a little bit more complicated. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to basically play an A minor 7 chord here in open position. And on that in that A minor 7 chord, I'm going to want to have my thumb going A, E. It's about as stable as it gets. That's going root 5th. Now, I'm going to have 2 fingers happening here. And I'm going to describe this kind of like a banjo roll. Even if you don't play banjo, you should still get this. So what happens, you kind of have this forward motion on this first one I'm talking about. Your fingers are going to go up. Now you're always going to alternate lower to higher string in this style. And that's actually contrary to anything you play on banjo. But in this style, what you're going to do, you're always going to be carrying quarter notes here like this. Now the first roll is, we're going to call it a forward roll, okay? So what's going to happen is your thumbs are going to play down beats and your fingers are going to play on the off beats. So you're going to play thumb 1, then thumb on the next string, then thumb 2, and we call that a forward roll. It sounds like this. So when I'm doing that, I'm thinking thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2. So then the next one is the opposite. Not totally opposite, but it's somewhat opposite. So instead of going thumb 1, thumb 2, we're going to go thumb 2, thumb 1, and we're going to call that backwards. And that sounds like this. So here again, I'm thinking thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1, thumb 2, thumb 1. So here's just our bass. And then I'm just doing the first finger. So that's pretty easy. So that gives you notes, that gives you melody notes offbeat. So if you need it on the and of 1, so if you need your melody note on the and of 1 on the highest string, you'd play the second pattern we played. If you need your melody note on the and of 2, you'd play the first melody pattern that we played. So a good example of that is Helplessly Hoping by Crosby, Stills, and Nash. It's got a very simple, it's that backwards pattern. So we're going thumb 2, thumb 1. Now it's got this small variation where on beat 1, you're going to play thumb, second finger together, okay? And that's going to be a quarter note instead of an eighth note like everything else is in that pattern. So you're going 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and on this A minor 7 chord. So you have, now what I did there, so 1, 2, and 3, on, instead of going to the second string there, I'm going to use my third finger, and I go to the high E string. Okay? It's not terribly complicated, and some people would just use their second finger, but I think it makes more sense for me if you can, to use your third finger. That way your fingers aren't going to get off. So anyway, on the A minor 7 chord, a little hammer on 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. I'm not changing what I'm doing, actually picking it all. You just end up getting 2 notes out of that first one by that hammer on. Okay, so the song is going to go to a C. On that G, I did the same thing I did on that A minor 7 chord. So on beat 1, or the and 3, sorry. Yeah, my bad. On the and 3 there, I'm just going to jump up with my third finger to grab that. Then to a D chord. And that's it. So put together, it all sounds like this. That's it. A lot of people would use Dust in the Wind by Kansas, but I just like this song a lot better. It's a little bit more intricate, but while being a lot more subtle. So hope you can follow that. If not, you can drop me some questions and I'll try to explain a little more in depth. Okay, so now that we've done that, we're going to move on to something that's a little bit more difficult, believe it or not. Playing offbeat is actually much easier than playing on beat for most people. Getting your melody notes on beat means they're going to play with your thumbs, okay? So an easy one to work on with that is just basically just pinching them together, so you get this. So you can do basically that melody like I showed you from Freight Train earlier. So just go like this. You can switch it around just to your first finger if you want. Doesn't sound as good. Simple as that. And then there's another pattern that basically combines what we were just doing there with your thumb on the beat and putting them off beat too. And that sounds like this. So what's happening in that is I'm pinching on 1, then on the and, I'm playing that note there. Then I'm repeating. But instead, my bass is now moved to this string, and I'm going to do the same thing. So I get... Pretty simple. And you can hear that very prominently in a Leo Kottke song called The Fisherman. It's a song that's near and dear to my heart. I've been playing it for a long time. My dad is not a commercial fisherman or anything, but my dad loves to fish, and that's actually a song that my dad plays too. So that song starts out like this. So believe it or not, really all that's happening through most of that is this pattern. Then it just has this melody that moves up like that. So it's actually, that's not easy. I won't try to make light of that. That's not an easy tune. But the concept of that is not hard. All you have to do, work on these patterns very slowly until they're not hard at all, until they basically become nothing. So warm-up exercises and stuff. So for warm-ups, you can basically, what I always do anyway, I always start out just with my thumb. So I just get a good solid thumb. Okay? Then I'll just basically throw in like the forward roll. backwards. Then I'll start doing these. That's it. I know, like I said, it's not easy, but the concepts are very simple. All you do, you work on those until you learn to basically do them without thinking about them. You combine them all together, and then all of a sudden you have independence. But you'll never develop the independence without learning them as patterns first. So basically you have to learn them as patterns and then unlearn them as patterns and just learn, okay, I need this note with this either on the thumb or off the thumb. There's really no other options. It's either with or it's off. And once you grasp that concept, once you've practiced enough to grasp that concept, fingerstyle to guitar is really not as mysterious, I think, as a lot of people make it out to be. If you have any questions, feel free to leave one in the comments. If you want to insult me, you can go ahead and leave those in the comments too. I can take it. And by the way, the guitar I'm playing is a guitar I did a gear review of just the other day. It's a Simon & Patrick Natural Element Series Cedar Top Dreadnought, and I love this guitar. It's only about $620, so for a guitar of this quality, it's absolutely killer. And hopefully, as you can tell, it sounds really quite good. If you have any questions, like I said, leave them in the comments. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed.